England have created history in Edgbaston by winning by 7 wickets. They achieved a record chase of 378, the highest in their test history. 2 players made it possible, Johnny Bairstow and Joe Root. What a phenomenal season Root is having in 2022 as well as 2021. He has now scored so many centuries and his runs have been so consistent that the Fab Four debate has now totally gone into a different dimension altogether. Consider this debate when it started. From 2014 till 2022, that was when the creation of the Fab Four started. Steve Smith, Virat Kohli, Kane Williamson, Joe Root. These were the 4 guys who had always dominated the batting charts. It was a close fight between Steve Smith and Virat Kohli when it came to tests and as well as all formats. Kohli was the leader of the pack when it came to consistency in all formats. Kane Williamson was there, occasionally showing his brilliance. But Root was the laggard. In the Fab Four debate, Root was at the bottom. After this India series and especially in his dominance in the last 2 years, it's not anymore. Root now is genuinely staking claim to be the greatest in that Fab Four. I will back it up with the numbers and the stats to show you why. 2021, let us take this period or let us even take the COVID period, 2020 onwards or even 2021. Virat Kohli was clearly ahead of the pack in Test cricket, 27 Test runs. Smith was there, 26. Williamson also 23. We all thought it was going to be a Fab 3 debate. Look at where Root is, 17. Root was the great non-converter when it came to 50s into 100s. This stat is also very important, folks, when judging Joe Root from the basis of the Fab 4. From 2015 till 2020, Joe Root had 42 50s and only 12 tons. That was the stat which made him the laggard. 10 50s and 3 centuries, identical in 2015 and 2016. After that, 8 centuries, 8 50s, 2 centuries, 2 centuries, 6 50s. 42 50s and 12 centuries from 2015 to 2020. That has now changed dramatically. Remember this, 2021, he was still ahead of the pack. All these 3, Williamson, Smith, Kohli. Now, in the space of just 1.5 years, Root has caught up and gone ahead of the pack. And how? Kohli, from 2020 onwards till now, unfortunately his struggles have been chronicled. No century in any formats. In tests, his average has gone down to under 50 for the first time in his career. But we are all talking about Kohli. No one is focusing on the other 2. Steve Smith and Kane Williamson are also undergoing through a lean patch. Smith and Williamson have scored only 1 century in the last 18 months. But look at Joe Root. 11 test runs from 2021 to 2022. 2021 was a golden year for Joe Root. 1,708 runs, 6 centuries. Out of that, daddy hundreds. Against Sri Lanka, against India, he hit double tons. And especially in this series against India, he's managed 4 tons. Even in 2022, his centuries against New Zealand, the West Indies, as well as against India have shown what a class player he truly is. That is why it is very, very flummoxing as to why he could not hit a century in Australia. Had he been in form in Australia, maybe the result would not have been 4-0. 0-1-1-11. That is the gap. 2 centuries from the Fab 3 and now Root has hit 11 on his own. So now after 2022, after the end of the Edgbaston series now, where does Root stand? Shockingly and deservingly, Root, who was the laggard 2 years ago in the Fab 4 debate, is now much ahead of them when it comes to century count. Kohli is stuck on 27. Smith has leveled him on 27, but he is still way behind. If you have to look at Smith's consistency, that has also been on a decline. He last scored a century against India and Sydney. After that, he's not scored a ton. Williamson has been bogged down by an elbow injury, and one of the knocks that he made was 238 against Pakistan. But even that, and since then, his numbers have been pretty dire. Joe Root from 17, last in the Fab Four, now he's 28. That is the brilliance of the former England captain now. Let us get that one thing clear. The number of runs that all the Fab Four have amassed puts Root in a different league altogether. Maybe now we can say Joe Root and then the Fab Three. Because just take a look at the numbers and the average. Virat Kohli 756 but only 29 average. Smith 779 but an average of 45. Williamson 491, 49.1, but if you take away that 238 that he scored, his average is pretty pedestrian. Joe Root 2,635 runs at an average of 59.8. Combine Kohli, Smith and Williamson. The number of runs scored, they are 600 runs behind Root's tally. That is the staggering level of consistency that Joe Root has achieved in his career now. This is called a purple patch. I would call it the Root patch. Simply from 2021, 1,708 runs, and he's now virtually tussling with Johnny Bairstow for the most number of runs in a calendar year yet again in 2022. Bairstow is ahead of the pack with his twin tons in Edgbaston. Root is catching up pretty soon. So, the Fab Four debate now is very much on equal terms. Joe Root now heads the list with the most number of centuries. Runs wise, he's now in the 10,000 bracket in Test match cricket, and his average is now over 50. Kohli, on the other hand, his struggles continue, and one remains to be seen whether he can reach those peaks that he reached in 2019. Smith, even he too is undergoing a lean patch. Can he bounce back in the remainder of the World Test Championship cycle? Williamson's chronic elbow injury might result in a little bit of diminishing in his returns. But as for Joe Root, all hail King Root. Thank you so much, folks, for joining us for this special live on the Fab Four. I will be back with more such analysis and explanation. Press the bell icon and subscribe to Sports Today. We are also there on Facebook, Twitter and Instagram, folks. Follow us there.